your employees, and potentially you've spent thousands of dollars to get a firm to help you hire that one employee or those 2 or 3 employees. They come on board, the next 90 days, they quit. 28% of new employees quit within the first 90 days on the job. And according to Psychology Today, 33%. So it's a big number. And the number one reason cited by Inc. magazine is a bad onboarding process. And I'll argue that the 3 most important days and time periods of your employee experience are the day before they start, the first day and first weeks on the job, and that the day they figure out that there is no more training. So when you think about before they start, what does that look like? That can be before you even offer a job. So after you interview, you could ghost an employee by never getting back to them about the status of their application. And many companies do that, which is a sign of a bad culture. With the social media today, that word spreads like fire. So it impacts your brand as a company. The other part of it is that the period between when you make an offer and when they come on board, you're ghosting them, or you could be ghosting them. What do you do in between that period to keep an employee engaged, to keep them connected with your company and build that connection? One of my members had a similar issue, and we processed that in our Vistage group. He was able to completely turn that on its head and put a series of processes in place to keep employees engaged from the time that they were hired and the time that they came on board. And that included employee lunches and including conference calls or just calls to get to know the employee. And they did a lot of paperwork prior to the employee coming on board, which is another way to ensure that they're not going to ghost you. The second thing is the first day, the first week on the job. What does that process look like when somebody comes on board for you? Is it that they sit in training and they spend the day with HR? Do they get to meet any of the new people? Do you walk them around? What does that look like? My daughter had an experience in a prior company where she basically sat in a training room with other people for months. And in the first month, she never met her supervisor. She never met her manager, which indicated that she was not being invested in. Even though she was getting training, that investment by the manager and that connection with the company through the person she would most work with was missing. One of the things that worked really well in my organization was the day that somebody came on, we didn't immediately put them in with HR. We took them around, we let them get to know everybody, see their desk, meet their manager, and spend some time with them. And they were taken out to lunch on their first day with their group so that they could get to know them and start that bonding process. They also spent a lot of time with employees through the first couple of weeks, again, to continue that bonding and not just sit in a training room. And they spent a lot of time with their manager, understanding the company, getting to know one another and what was important to the employee, how they like to be recognized, who their family was. That investment in employees creates a stickiness that will help you go beyond that 90 days and not have 28% of your employees quit. Lastly, the third part is the day that your employee realizes that the training is over. And I'm not talking about the training for their actual job, the core job training, but it's when they realize that the training and development that they're getting and the way that you're investing in them long-term is non-existent or doesn't meet their needs. So that's one of the things that can be ferreted out in an interview is what does that look like? What do they want from the company? That way you don't have a mismatch. And I think most people don't look at the day that training is over or how the investment in people in terms of training and development, how much that matters. They want to have a growth and development plan. They want to have a career plan. And if they don't see that happening, even if it wasn't articulated by them in an interview, it could be another reason their employees are quitting. Don't be one of the companies with a 28% quit rate after 90 days or 6 months or a year. There are things you can do to connect your people before the interview, after the interview, and between the hire date and your start date, the first week on the job, and investing in them in the future. Make it a great day and may you soar in 2024.